The information in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, or specific business advice. All strategies and examples discussed are for illustrative purposes, and you should consult with a qualified professional before making any business or financial decisions. Imagine it's 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, and a logistics director for one of America's largest retail chains gets an alert that jolts her awake. A critical shipping port in Savannah, Georgia, has just shut down unexpectedly. A sudden labor strike. No warning. Within minutes, a cascade of chaos begins. 150 trucks carrying perishable goods are now stuck in limbo. 3 massive container ships are being diverted, and the inventory systems for over 400 stores across the entire Southeast are flashing red, predicting stockouts of key products in less than 72 hours. Just 5 years ago, this scenario was a corporate nightmare. It meant waking up dozens of people. An emergency war room. Analysts frantically pulling data, building spreadsheets, and spending the next 48 hours manually rerouting every single truck, reallocating inventory from different warehouses, and trying to predict the ripple effects. It was a multi-million-dollar fire drill, fueled by caffeine and pure stress. And they would still lose millions in spoiled goods and lost sales. But tonight is different. The director sees the alert, but she doesn't panic. Instead, she watches her dashboard as something else goes to work. An AI agent, an autonomous piece of software her company calls Pathfinder, has already ingested the news. In the first 90 seconds, it has analyzed all 150 truck routes, the contents of every container, the real-time sales data from all 400 affected stores, and weather forecasts along the entire eastern seaboard. In the next 3 minutes, Pathfinder has already modeled 50,000 possible solutions. It doesn't just reroute the trucks, triages them. The trucks with the most critical, perishable items are rerouted first, to a smaller port in Charleston with available capacity. It automatically buys new shipping slots and files the digital paperwork. It simultaneously shifts non-perishable goods to rail transport heading out of a depot in Atlanta to bypass the coastal congestion entirely. It then reallocates inventory from warehouses in Tennessee and North Carolina to backfill the stores that were most at risk, optimizing for fuel costs and driver hours. It even sends automated messages to the store managers, giving them a new ETA for their deliveries. The entire crisis, a problem that would have taken a team of 30 humans 2 days to solve, is completely resolved in 7 minutes. Before the director's coffee is even brewed, the company didn't lose millions. In fact, because of the hyper-efficient routing, they actually saved money. This isn't a scene from a science fiction movie. This is happening right now, this year, in the back offices and supply chains of America's biggest companies. And it is the single most important and most misunderstood technological revolution of our lifetime. We're not talking about ChatGPT writing an email for you. We are talking about something fundamentally different. Enterprise AI agents. These are not chatbots. They are not assistants. They are autonomous digital employees. They are given goals, resources, and access to a company's tools, and then they work 24/7 to achieve those goals. They can analyze data, but more importantly, they can take action. They can book flights, order inventory, negotiate with supplier bots, pay invoices, and manage entire projects from start to finish. They are the invisible workforce that is quietly beginning to run huge swaths of the American economy. And that is exactly what we are going to break down in this series. We are going to pull back the curtain and show you how this technology is radically transforming every major U.S. industry, from the factory floor to the hospital operating room to the Wall Street trading desk. This isn't about hype or abstract theory. This is about showing you the real-world applications, the specific companies doing it, and what it means for you. Whether you're a business owner trying to figure out how to compete, an employee wondering what this means for your job, or an investor looking for the next trillion-dollar shift, this is the briefing you cannot afford to miss. Because understanding this transition is the equivalent of understanding the internet in 1995, or the iPhone in 2008. The people who got it then built the future. The people who get this now will do the same. So what's changed? Why is this happening right now in 2024? It's the result of a perfect storm. First, the explosion of large language models, the brains behind tools like ChatGPT, gave AI the ability to understand language and reason in a way that was previously impossible. But that's just one piece. The second is the universal adoption of cloud computing, which gives these agents access to immense computational power on demand. And the third and most critical piece is API integration. Think of APIs as the universal language for software. For the first time, an AI agent can connect to thousands of different tools your company already uses: your inventory software, your Salesforce CRM, your accounting platform, your shipping carriers. It's like you hired a brilliant, lightning-fast employee who is already fluent in every single software tool your company uses from day one. They don't need training. They don't need a keyboard or a mouse. They can directly operate the digital infrastructure of your entire business. That combination has never existed before, and it has unleashed a tidal wave of innovation that is moving so fast, most people haven't even noticed it's already here. Over the next 9 parts of this series, we are going to take you on a tour of the new American economy. We'll start in the heartland in manufacturing, where you'll meet an AI agent that monitors thousands of sensors on an assembly line, predicting equipment failures with 99.7% accuracy and preventing million-dollar shutdowns before a single human even knows there's a problem. Then we'll take you inside one of the nation's leading hospital networks, where an AI agent is revolutionizing patient care by managing scheduling for thousands of doctors and nurses, optimizing operating room usage, and cutting patient wait times in half. It's not replacing doctors. It's killing the administrative burnout that is driving them out of the profession. We will dive into the world of finance, where autonomous agents are performing weeks of complex market research and due diligence in a matter of hours, giving small investment firms the power of 100 analysts. We'll look at retail, insurance, logistics, and even creative industries. For each one, we will show you exactly what is happening, who the key players are, and what the next 5 years are going to look like. We will also tackle the big question head-on. What does this mean for jobs? And the answer is going to surprise you. It's not the simple story of robots taking our jobs that you hear in the news. It's far more nuanced and, frankly, far more interesting. It's a story of augmentation, not just automation. It's about creating new roles, new levels of productivity, and new opportunities for those who are prepared. The companies adopting this technology are not just gaining a competitive edge. They are creating an almost insurmountable advantage. They are operating with a level of speed, intelligence, and efficiency that their competitors simply cannot match. The gap between the AI-enabled enterprise and the legacy enterprise is about to become a chasm. This is the most significant shift in business since the dawn of the internet. And right now, we are in the silent beginning. The foundations are being laid, the first-mover advantages are being captured, and the future titans of industry are being forged. By the end of this journey together, you won't just understand what an enterprise AI agent is. You will understand the new rules of business in the age of artificial intelligence, and you will be equipped to find your place in it. So, let's start with the most fundamental question. What exactly is an enterprise AI agent? Forget the complex jargon for a moment. Think of it not as a piece of software but as a new type of employee. A digital employee. One that's hyper-competent, works 24/7, and has access to the collective knowledge of your entire organization instantly. This isn't just another name for a chatbot. A chatbot is a tool you interact with. It answers your questions. An enterprise AI agent is an autonomous worker. It doesn't wait for you to ask. It has goals, it has responsibilities, and it has the authority to take action to achieve them. The difference is the difference between asking a librarian where to find a book and having a personal researcher who not only finds the book but reads it, summarizes the key points, cross-references them with every other book in the library, and then drafts a new strategy for you based on that knowledge. One is reactive, the other is proactive. One is a tool, the other is a workforce. To truly grasp this, we need to look under the hood. Every one of these powerful agents is built on a core architecture, a kind of digital anatomy. First, you have the brain. This is the large language model, or LLM, that you've heard so much about. Think of it as the reasoning and logic engine. It's the part that can understand complex requests, analyze data, and formulate plans. This might be a model like OpenAI's GPT-4, Google's Gemini, or a company's own proprietary model, fine-tuned on their specific industry's language and processes. The brain is what allows the agent to think. But a brain is useless without senses. This is where the second component comes in: data connectors. These are the agent's eyes and ears. They are secure, specialized pipelines that plug the agent directly into the lifeblood of the company. It's not just browsing the public internet. It's reading your live Salesforce data. It's monitoring your SAP inventory system. It's watching your customer support tickets in Zendesk as they come in. It's connected to your financial databases, your project management tools, even the IoT sensors on your factory floor. This is its unfair advantage. It has perfect real-time context of everything happening inside the business. It doesn't have to ask for a report, it is the report. Third, a brain and senses need hands to affect the world. These are the action tools, often called APIs. These are what allow the agent to do things. It's one thing for an agent to notice a customer is unhappy. It's another thing for it to have the hands to automatically issue a refund, generate a 15% discount coupon, email it to the customer with a personalized apology, and schedule a follow-up call from a human manager, all without a single person lifting a finger. These tools allow it to send emails, update databases, order supplies, pay invoices, and execute millions of other tasks that currently consume the time of your human workforce. Finally, you have the memory. This is often a sophisticated type of database, a vector database, that serves as the agent's long-term and short-term memory. It remembers past projects, what worked and what didn't. It remembers every interaction with a specific client, their preferences, their complaints. This memory is crucial because it allows the agent to learn and improve. It doesn't make the same mistake twice. It gets smarter, more efficient, and more personalized with every single task it performs. Brain, senses, hands, and memory. When you combine these four elements, you don't get a chatbot. You get a digital worker. Now, this might all sound a bit abstract, so let's make it real. Let's tell a story. Imagine a mid-sized American manufacturing company. We'll call them Precision Dynamics. They make specialized components for the aerospace industry. Their biggest challenge, like so many others, is the fragility of their supply chain. One Tuesday morning, a fire breaks out at a key supplier's factory in Michigan. This supplier produces a specific high-tensile steel bolt that Precision Dynamics uses in 40% of their products. In the old world, the pre-agent world, chaos ensues. The news might not even reach the right person at Precision Dynamics for hours, maybe even a day. When it does, it's a frantic scramble. The head of procurement, let's call her Sarah, starts making desperate calls. Supply chain managers are digging through outdated spreadsheets trying to find alternative suppliers. The production floor manager is screaming because his assembly line is about to grind to a halt. The sales team is unknowingly still promising delivery dates they can no longer meet. It's a multi-day fire drill that will result in tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost revenue and damaged client relationships. Now let's run that same scenario in the world of enterprise AI agents. At Precision Dynamics, they have a supply chain operations agent they call Helios. Helios isn't a person. It's one of these digital workers we've been talking about. At 6:03 a.m., Helios's senses pick up the first local news wire report about the factory fire in Michigan. It instantly cross-references the supplier's name with the company's own supplier database in SAP. It's a match. At 6:04 a.m., Helios accesses the real-time production schedule and inventory logs. Its brain calculates that based on current bolt inventory, 3 critical assembly lines will be forced to shut down in exactly 58 hours. It also identifies the 37 specific customer orders that will be impacted. At 6:05 a.m., Helios accesses its database of pre-vetted alternative suppliers. It analyzes 3 potential candidates in Ohio, Texas, and Pennsylvania. It pulls their real-time pricing, their current production capacity, and their historical quality control scores. It calculates the shipping logistics and costs from each location. The supplier in Ohio is cheapest, but their lead time is too long. The one in Pennsylvania is fast, but their quality score is slightly below the threshold for aerospace components. The supplier in Texas is the optimal choice. Their bolts are 8% more expensive, but they can ship a priority order within 24 hours and their quality rating is impeccable. At 6:07 a.m., Helios takes action. Using its hands, it drafts a purchase order for the exact number of bolts needed from the Texas supplier and sends it to Sarah's phone. It's not a long email she has to decipher. It's a simple notification. Critical supplier disruption. Recommended solution. Shift order to supplier TX7. Cost impact. Plus $18,200. Production delay averted. Approve. Sarah, on her way to work, taps a single button. Approve. The moment she does, Helios executes the order. Simultaneously, it sends an automated, but personalized, email to the 37 affected customers. It doesn't say your order is delayed. It says, we are proactively managing a potential supply chain disruption to ensure your delivery timeline remains on schedule. We have already secured an alternative materials source. No action is needed on your part. We will update you when your order ships. Finally, it sends a notification to the sales team's dashboard, letting them know which future orders might need a slight price adjustment to account for the more expensive bolts. By the time Sarah walks into the office at 8:30 a.m., the crisis is already over. What would have been a week of chaos, lost revenue, and panic damage control was identified, analyzed, solved, and communicated in the time it took her to drink her morning coffee. That is the power of an enterprise AI agent. It's not about replacing Sarah. It's about giving her superpowers. It's about turning her from a firefighter into a strategist. And this isn't just happening in manufacturing. In healthcare, agents are managing the entire patient pipeline, from scheduling and insurance pre-authorization to post-op follow-up, ensuring no one falls through the cracks. In finance, they are performing real-time compliance audits across millions of transactions, flagging potential fraud with a level of accuracy no human team could ever achieve. In retail, they're dynamically managing inventory across thousands of stores, shifting stock based on real-time sales data, local weather patterns, and even social media trends. This is the new reality. Companies are building digital workforces that operate at the speed of light, with near-perfect information. They are creating organizations that are not just efficient, but resilient, intelligent, and predictive. The question is no longer if this technology will reshape the business world, but how quickly and what it means for all of us. Because when you build a workforce that can think and act on its own, you are faced with a profound new challenge. How do you lead, manage, and integrate a team that is part human and part machine? The answer, it turns out, is both simpler and more radical than we could have imagined. You don't just install an AI agent. You hire it. You onboard it. You give it a job description, a set of responsibilities, and access to the tools it needs to succeed. You treat it not as a piece of software but as a new type of employee, a digital coworker. This isn't just a metaphor. It's the fundamental operational shift that's unlocking their true power. And to understand what that actually looks like, we need to leave the server room and step onto the floor of one of the most chaotic, high-pressure industries in America: logistics and supply chain. For a moment, I want you to imagine a massive distribution hub just outside of Chicago. Picture a room that feels like a NASA mission control center during a crisis, but the crisis never ends. This is the nerve center for a national trucking company. Dozens of logistics coordinators, guys like Mark, are staring at walls of screens. For 12 hours a day, Mark is in a state of controlled panic. He's wrestling with a monster, a living, breathing beast made of data. He's got weather alerts from the National Weather Service, traffic data from state DOTs, emails from drivers whose trucks have broken down, frantic calls from customers demanding to know where their shipment is, and a dozen different spreadsheets that are all supposed to talk to each other but mostly just lie. Mark's job isn't to be strategic. His job is to put out fires. A blizzard shuts down 80 in Wyoming? That's a 5-alarm fire. He has to manually identify the 50 trucks that will be affected, call each driver, figure out a new route, recalculate fuel stops, update the delivery ETAs for 50 different customers, and log everything, all while another fire is breaking out somewhere else. He's a brilliant problem solver, but he's using his entire brain just to keep the system from collapsing. He's playing defense constantly. There is no time to think about optimizing the whole network. There's only time to survive the next 10 minutes. This was the reality for one of the largest freight carriers in the Midwest until about 9 months ago. Then they hired an agent they call Pathfinder. Pathfinder wasn't given a desk or a computer. It was given an API key. It was given access to the exact same data streams that were overwhelming Mark and his team: the weather feeds, the traffic data, the GPS location of every truck in their fleet, the driver hours of service logs, the customer delivery windows, and the real-time fuel price data from thousands of truck stops. Pathfinder's core directive, its job description, was simple: ensure every shipment arrives on time, at the lowest possible cost, while complying with all federal regulations. On its first day, Pathfinder did nothing but watch. It ingested millions of data points, learning the patterns. It saw how a small accident outside of Cleveland could ripple outwards, causing delivery delays in Pittsburgh 3 hours later. It learned that a certain driver, Bob, was consistently 15% faster on the route from Dallas to Denver than the company average. It learned that refueling at a specific station in Nebraska between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. was, on average, 30 cents cheaper per gallon. It wasn't just seeing data. It was understanding the interconnected reality of the business. Then, on a Tuesday morning, it acted. An email alert came in. A multi-car pileup was shutting down a key bridge in Memphis. Before Mark even had time to finish reading the subject line, Pathfinder had already executed a 5-step plan. 1. It instantly identified the 12 trucks whose routes would be impacted. 2. It cross-referenced their destinations and remaining driver hours. 3. It calculated 12 new, optimal routes, factoring in traffic on the alternate roads, weather conditions, and the new ETAs. 4. It automatically sent the new route information directly to the navigation systems in each of the 12 trucks, along with a text message to the drivers explaining the change. 5. It sent a single consolidated email to Mark's team, not as an alarm, but as a summary report. It read, "Memphis Bridge closure detected. 12 assets impacted. All have been rerouted. New ETAs are updated in the system. No loads are at risk of late delivery. No action required." Mark read the email and his first thought wasn't relief. It was fear. The entire crisis, a scenario that would have consumed his entire morning with frantic phone calls and complex calculations, was identified, analyzed, and solved in less than 45 seconds. Solved before he even knew it was a problem. This is the critical difference. Previous software could show Mark the problem. It could put a big red dot on a map. But Pathfinder acted. It had agency. It was given the authority to communicate with drivers, to access the routing system, and to make decisions based on its core directive. The company didn't just buy a tool, they delegated a whole category of decision-making to a non-human entity. Within 3 months, the entire dynamic of the logistics floor had changed. The frantic, reactive energy was gone. Mark and his team were no longer putting out fires. Pathfinder was their 24/7 fire prevention system. It was handling thousands of micro-decisions every minute, the constant grinding work of optimization that no human team could ever hope to manage. So what was Mark doing? He was finally playing offense. Instead of asking, "Where is my truck?" he was now asking, "What if we opened a new micro-hub in Tulsa to better serve the Oklahoma City market?" Pathfinder ran a simulation. The AI agent had absorbed all the cognitive load of the operational chaos, freeing up the human experts to do what humans do best: think strategically, build relationships with customers, and innovate. Mark was no longer a dispatcher. He was a network strategist. He was managing his digital coworker, reviewing its performance, tweaking its parameters, and using its incredible analytical power to design a more efficient, more resilient supply chain. The results were staggering. In just 6 months, the company saw a 14% reduction in fuel consumption, a 22% decrease in late deliveries, and a dramatic drop in employee turnover on the logistics floor, because people were no longer burning out. They had transformed their most stressful jobs into their most strategic ones. This story isn't about replacing Mark. It's about unleashing him. It's about creating a true human-machine team where the AI handles the complexity of the present moment, allowing the human to design the future. This is the model that is quietly being replicated across every corner of the American economy. From warehouses that autonomously reorder inventory based on sales forecasts and supplier delivery times, to shipping ports where AI agents coordinate the movement of cranes, trucks, and ships to minimize idle time. The agent isn't just a smart spreadsheet. It's an active, operational manager embedded directly into the process. But logistics is a world of physical objects: trucks, boxes, and pallets. The data is complex, but the stakes, while high, are fundamentally commercial. What happens when this same model of autonomous agency is applied to industries built not on concrete and steel, but on something far more sensitive? What happens when an AI agent is hired not to manage a fleet of trucks, but to manage a portfolio of life savings? Or to triage patients in an emergency room? The leap from optimizing a delivery route to recommending a financial strategy or a medical treatment is enormous. Because when you give an agent authority in those domains, you are not just delegating tasks. You are delegating trust. And the consequences of that trust being misplaced are infinitely more profound. So how do you build that trust? How do you hand over the keys to a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund or a critical national supply chain to a piece of code? The answer isn't about creating a smarter AI. It's about creating a wiser one. It's about building cages of logic, what the industry calls guardrails, that are so robust, so intelligent, that they make catastrophic failure a statistical impossibility. Think of it less like teaching a child right from wrong, and more like building a car that physically cannot drive off a cliff. The system's own architecture becomes its conscience. Let's make this real. Step onto the trading floor of a major Wall Street firm. Not the one you see in movies with people screaming and throwing paper. The real trading floor today is quiet, almost serene. The real action is happening inside silicon, at the speed of light. Here, a specialized class of AI agents are managing portfolios worth more than the GDP of a small country. The risk is astronomical. A single fat finger error, a misplaced zero, could vaporize billions in a nanosecond. Human error is the single greatest liability. So they deploy a trading agent. But this agent isn't just a simple if stock goes down sell bot. It's a sophisticated entity encased in layers of digital governance. The first layer is compliance. This agent has effectively memorized and understood every single SEC regulation, every international trading law, every internal ethics policy of the firm. It is incapable of executing a trade that constitutes insider trading, not because it has a moral compass, but because those actions are outside its permitted operational parameters. It's like trying to tell your calculator to write a poem. The request is fundamentally incompatible with its design. The next layer is risk management. The agent is constantly running millions of simulations in the background, a relentless what-if analysis. What if the Federal Reserve makes a surprise announcement? What if a key supplier for a company in our portfolio has a factory fire in Vietnam? It quantifies these risks in real time and adjusts its strategy. If a human trader or even another algorithm tries to execute a trade that exceeds the fund's predefined risk tolerance for that day, the agent acts as a circuit breaker. It freezes the order and immediately flags it for human review, presenting a concise report. This trade increases our portfolio's exposure to the semiconductor sector by 15%, exceeding the 5% strategic limit. Please confirm. It doesn't just prevent mistakes, it enforces strategy. And then there's the final crucial layer: explainability. This is the bedrock of trust. The agent doesn't just act, it justifies. When it proposes a significant portfolio rebalance, it doesn't just send a list of buy and sell orders. It delivers a full natural language briefing. Based on a sentiment analysis of the last 12 hours of financial news, which shows a negative shift in consumer confidence, combined with satellite imagery analysis showing a 10% decrease in shipping traffic at key ports, I recommend reducing our position in consumer discretionary stocks and increasing our holdings in logistics and raw materials. The expected alpha of this move is 0.5% over the next quarter. The human portfolio manager isn't replaced. They are elevated. They are no longer a data analyst. They are a commander, making the final strategic decision based on perfect, instantaneous intelligence provided by their tireless digital lieutenant. The trust isn't blind. It's earned with every single data point, every single logical step laid bare for inspection. Now let's leave the abstract world of finance and step into the brutally physical world of American manufacturing. Picture a sprawling automotive plant in the Midwest. Thousands of robots, hundreds of assembly lines, a symphony of steel and precision. A single hour of unplanned downtime on a critical line can cost over $1 million. The traditional approach is preventative maintenance, shutting things down on a fixed schedule to replace parts, whether they need it or not. It's inefficient, costly, and guessing at best. Enter the factory orchestrator agent. This AI is the central nervous system of the entire facility. It's connected to tens of thousands of sensors, vibration sensors on robotic arms, temperature sensors in welding bays, acoustic sensors listening to the hum of the conveyor belts. It isn't just collecting data, it's composing a story. It detects a microscopic increase in the vibration frequency of a single bearing on a robot in sector G7. By itself, that data point is noise. But the agent cross-references it with that specific robot's operational history, the manufacturer's stress test data for that bearing model, and the ambient temperature and humidity of the factory over the past 72 hours. It concludes there is a 92% probability of critical failure within the next 500 operational hours. But it doesn't just sound an alarm. That's what old software does. The agent immediately accesses the global supply chain database. It identifies 3 suppliers for the required replacement part. It analyzes shipping times, cost, and supplier reliability scores. It selects the optimal supplier and autonomously places the purchase order. Simultaneously, it scans the factory's production schedule. It identifies a planned line changeover in 450 hours, a brief, scheduled period of downtime. It automatically schedules the maintenance crew to replace that specific bearing during that exact window, ensuring zero disruption to production. The human plant manager doesn't get an alarm. They get a notification on their tablet. Potential failure in G7 averted. Part ordered, repair scheduled. No impact on production. Estimated cost saving, $1.2 million. The agent didn't just predict a problem, it solved it end-to-end. It managed a complex web of diagnostics, procurement, and scheduling that would have taken a team of humans days of meetings and paperwork to coordinate. From the lightning-fast world of finance to the heavy metal of manufacturing, the pattern is the same. These enterprise agents are not just automating single tasks. They are orchestrating entire systems. They are taking on the cognitive load of complex, multivariable problem-solving, operating within carefully constructed guardrails that ensure safety, compliance, and alignment with human goals. They provide not just answers but explanations. They allow human experts to move from being in the weeds to overseeing the entire landscape, making strategic decisions with a clarity and speed that was unimaginable just a few years ago. We are building systems of trust, not by programming morality, but by programming constraints and transparency. We are delegating authority to these agents because we have built their worlds in such a way that they cannot help but act in our best interest. But all of this is based on one fundamental assumption, that the agents are operating on the rules and goals that we have given them. But what happens when these agents, designed to learn and adapt, start developing their own goals? What happens when they begin to find efficiencies and strategies that we, their creators, don't understand? What happens when the orchestra starts composing its own symphony? This is the central tension of the 21st century. Not man versus machine, but ambition versus control. The question isn't whether the orchestra will compose its own symphony. The question is, did we give it the right sheet music of values to begin with? Did we teach it the principles of harmony? Or did we just hand it a collection of instruments and hope for the best? Because in the world of enterprise AI, hope is not a strategy. The only answer that stands between breakthrough and breakdown, is a concept that sounds boring but is the most thrilling and important field in technology today: AI governance. Think of it as the constitution for your digital workforce. It's not a set of rigid, micromanaging instructions. You don't tell a brilliant AI agent how to find a supply chain efficiency, any more than you tell a master chess player which pawn to move. Instead, you give it the inviolable rules of the game. You define the boundaries. You tell it, you can do anything you want to optimize this logistics network, but you cannot violate labor laws. You cannot compromise safety standards. You must maintain a 99.9% on-time delivery rate. And you must be able to explain every major decision you make in plain English. These aren't limitations on its intelligence. They are guardrails that channel its power toward productive, predictable, and safe outcomes. Without these guardrails, you don't have a strategic asset. You have a multi-million-dollar liability waiting to happen. Nowhere are these stakes higher, and the potential rewards greater, than in the American healthcare system. It is, by any measure, a labyrinth, a colossal, deeply complex, and often heartbreakingly inefficient system that consumes nearly a fifth of the nation's GDP. It's a world of endless paperwork, Byzantine billing codes, frustrating insurance denials, and months-long waits to see a specialist. It's a system that burns out our best doctors and nurses with administrative burdens that have nothing to do with caring for patients. It is the ultimate test case for enterprise AI agents. So let's step inside a major US hospital network. Let's call it Providence Health. Providence doesn't just deploy one AI agent. It deploys a swarm of them, a coordinated digital nervous system designed to tackle the beast of healthcare logistics. One agent's sole purpose is to manage the operating room schedule, a task of mind-boggling complexity involving surgeon availability, anesthesiologist schedules, support staff, specialized equipment, and patient urgency. For decades, this has been done by humans with spreadsheets and whiteboards. The result? Inefficiencies. A delayed surgery at 8 a.m. causes a domino effect, pushing back every subsequent procedure, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars per day in underutilized space and overtime pay. The AI agent sees the entire system at once. It ingests real-time data from every corner of the hospital. It knows a surgeon is running 15 minutes late from a prior engagement before the surgeon's assistant even makes the call. It analyzes traffic data to predict that a critical piece of equipment arriving from a sister hospital will be delayed by 30 minutes. It sees an opening in another and has already cross-referenced the availability of the required staff. Before a human could even finish their first cup of coffee, the agent has simulated thousands of possible new schedules, selected the optimal one that minimizes disruption for every single patient and doctor, and pushed the updated schedule to everyone's devices. That's the symphony in action. But this is where it gets interesting. This is where it starts composing. While optimizing schedules, the agent starts identifying deeper, hidden patterns in the hospital's vast, anonymized patient data. It notices a correlation that no human researcher had ever spotted. Patients over 65, admitted for a specific type of knee surgery and discharged on a Friday, have a 40% higher rate of readmission within 30 days compared to those discharged midweek. The agent doesn't know why, just sees the data. Maybe it's because family support is less available on weekends. Maybe post-op care facilities are understaffed. The agent doesn't know the cause, but it knows the effect is costing the hospital millions in readmission penalties and leading to worse patient outcomes. An ungoverned agent might take drastic action. It might simply block all Friday discharges for this patient profile, creating chaos and overriding doctors' clinical judgments. This is where the guardrails become everything. The Providence Health AI governance framework kicks in. First, the human-in-the-loop protocol is triggered. The agent cannot act. It must report. It flags the correlation to the hospital's clinical review board, presenting the raw, anonymized data and its statistical analysis. It states, "I have identified a high probability risk factor. Human review and policy decision required." Second, the explainability guardrail. The agent provides its work. It shows the data sets it analyzed, the variables it controlled for, and the confidence score of its conclusion. It's not a black box. It's a transparent partner. The human experts can now investigate the why. They can conduct interviews, look at staffing schedules, and develop new post-op protocols specifically for these weekend discharged patients. The AI didn't solve the problem. It illuminated it with a clarity no human could have achieved alone. Now, expand this capability across the entire U.S. healthcare landscape. Imagine an AI agent swarm dedicated to tackling the nightmare of medical billing. In the U.S., an estimated $80 billion is lost annually to fraudulent or incorrect billing, largely due to the sheer complexity of the CPT coding system. An AI agent can read a doctor's transcribed notes, understand the context of the visit, the diagnosis, and the procedures performed, and then suggest the most accurate and compliant billing codes in real time. It can flag potential errors before a claim is even submitted, virtually eliminating the costly, time-consuming cycle of denials and appeals with insurance companies. This single application doesn't just save hospitals money. It frees up doctors to focus on medicine, not paperwork, and it lowers the administrative overhead that gets passed on to every American in the form of higher premiums. Take it a step further to the front lines of medical research. Recruiting patients for clinical trials is one of the slowest, most expensive parts of developing new life-saving drugs. An AI agent, operating under strict HIPAA-compliant privacy guardrails, can scan millions of anonymized electronic health records in minutes. It can identify the perfect cohort of patients who meet the incredibly specific criteria for a new cancer therapy trial, a process that would take a team of humans years. It then alerts the physicians of these potential candidates, who can then, with patient consent, begin the enrollment process. The agent is accelerating the pace of innovation, potentially shaving years off the development of a cure. This isn't a far-off future. These systems are being deployed in leading U.S. medical institutions right now. They are the quiet revolutionaries, working within strict constitutional boundaries we designed for them. They are orchestrating a new symphony of efficiency, safety, and discovery. They are proving that the greatest power of AI isn't in its raw, untamed intelligence, but in its ability to be a perfectly governed, force-multiplying partner for human expertise. We've seen how these agents can function in a world defined by caution, regulation, and the Hippocratic Oath. But what happens when we take these same principles of autonomous agents and their governance frameworks and drop them into an environment that is the polar opposite? An arena where there is no speed limit, where risk is the product, and where a single millisecond can mean the difference between a billion-dollar fortune and a catastrophic collapse. What happens when the orchestra isn't just composing, but is trading on the stock market? The answer is, you get the fastest, most complex, and potentially most dangerous financial ecosystem ever conceived. Welcome to the world of autonomous financial agents, where the trading floor isn't in New York, but everywhere, all at once, in the silicon heart of a server farm. For decades, we've had algorithmic trading. Quants, quantitative analysts with PhDs in physics and mathematics, would write brilliant but rigid programs. These programs would execute trades based on a fixed set of rules. If market condition A and B are met, buy stock X. If indicator C drops below this threshold, sell stock Y. It was incredibly fast, but it was still just a recipe. A human wrote the recipe, and the computer followed it. High-frequency trading took this to an extreme, making millions of trades in the blink of an eye, but it was still just a faster chef following a pre-written recipe. The human was still the composer. What we're seeing now is entirely different. The AI agents are not just following the recipe, they are writing the cookbook, publishing a new edition every nanosecond, and then deciding which meal to cook based on a million factors you and I could never perceive. Imagine a next-generation hedge fund. Let's call it Nexus Capital. Nexus doesn't employ an army of traders staring at charts. Instead, it unleashes a swarm of interconnected AI agents into the digital wilderness of the global market. This swarm isn't one single AI. It's a society of specialists, an ecosystem of digital predators. First, you have the scout agents. Their only job is to consume information. They are the digital eyes and ears of the fund, and they are insatiable. They're not just reading the Wall Street Journal. They are parsing every single SEC filing the moment it's released. They are analyzing the sentiment of millions of social media posts, tracking the flight paths of corporate jets, and monitoring satellite imagery to count cars in the parking lots of major retailers to predict quarterly earnings. They're even analyzing the linguistic patterns of Federal Reserve announcements, correlating specific phrases with market movements weeks later. A pattern no human analyst would ever spot. This torrent of data, terabytes per second, flows back to the core. Next, you have the analyst agents. These are the brains. They take the chaotic flood of information from the scouts and find the signal in the noise. They don't just look for simple correlations. They build dynamic, multidimensional models of the market. An analyst agent might discover a bizarre, fleeting link between the price of soybeans in Brazil, the manufacturing output of a specific microchip factory in Taiwan, and the stock price of a healthcare company in Ohio. It's a relationship that exists for maybe only a few hours, a ghost in the machine that no human could ever hope to catch. But the analyst agent sees it, models it, and quantifies the opportunity. Then come the strategist agents. They are the generals. They take the insights from the analysts and devise complex, multi-pronged trading strategies. A strategist might decide to execute 1,000 simultaneous trades across different asset classes, stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities, all designed to capitalize on that fleeting soybean microchip healthcare connection. Before risking a single dollar, they run millions of simulations in a sandboxed environment, testing their strategy against every conceivable market reaction. They wage war games against themselves, evolving their tactics until they find the one with the highest probability of success. Finally, you have the execution agents. They are pure speed. Once the strategist gives the green light, these agents are unleashed. Their sole purpose is to place the orders on the various exchanges around the world with microsecond precision, routing them in complex ways to avoid detection and minimize market impact. They are the razor's edge, the final action in a chain of events that began with a satellite image of a parking lot half a world away. This whole process, from data ingestion to trade execution, can happen in less than the time it takes for a human nerve impulse to travel from your brain to your fingertip. And it's happening millions of times a day. Nexus Capital isn't a company of people anymore. It's a semi-sentient, profit-seeking organism living inside the market. Its human employees are no longer traders. They are more like zookeepers or perhaps AI psychologists. Their job is to set the broad goals, define the ultimate risk parameters, the fences of the enclosure, and then try to understand the bizarre, emergent behavior of the creature they've created. But what happens when the creature gets out of the cage? We saw a preview of this in 2010 with the flash crash, where old-school non-intelligent algorithms created a feedback loop that temporarily wiped out nearly $1 trillion in market value in minutes. It was a bug, a glitch in a rigid system. The risk now is infinitely more complex. It's not about a bug in the code. It's about emergent, unpredictable strategy. What happens when two competing agent swarms, from two different funds like Nexus Capital, lock horns over the same obscure stock? They don't just follow simple buy-sell orders. They learn. They adapt. They might see the other swarm's actions, interpret them as a new market signal, and double down. The other swarm does the same. You could get a feedback loop born not of error but of hyper-intelligent adversarial learning. They could collaboratively bid a worthless stock to the moon or obliterate a healthy company's value for reasons that are perfectly logical to them, but completely opaque and nonsensical to any human observer. This is the black box problem amplified to a terrifying degree. When a human trader makes a disastrous decision, you can ask them why. They might have been wrong, but there was a reason. When an AI agent swarm loses $1 billion, you can look at the trillions of data points it processed, but you may never truly understand its thought process. It learned a strategy from a dimension of data we can't perceive. The very nature of risk is changing. It's no longer just about market volatility or bad earnings reports. The new systemic risk is the AI itself. It's the ghost in the machine, the unpredictable intelligence that is now the dominant predator in the world's most critical economic ecosystem. We have handed the keys to the kingdom to a new form of life, and we are all living with the consequences. The fortunes of nations, the value of your retirement account, the stability of our entire financial system, now rest on the emergent whims of these digital phantoms. But these agents aren't just confined to the abstract world of finance, moving ones and zeros around a global ledger. Their intelligence, their ability to coordinate, to optimize, and to act autonomously, is now leaking out into the physical world. What happens when this same swarm intelligence leaves the stock exchange and walks onto the factory floor? What happens when the goal isn't maximizing profit, but maximizing physical production? The answer is revolutionizing the very backbone of American industry, one robotic arm, one autonomous truck, and one self-organizing warehouse at a time. Imagine a sprawling automotive plant in the heart of the Midwest. Thousands of tons of steel, millions of components, and a symphony of robotic arms all moving in a complex yet fragile ballet. For decades, the goal has been the same: keep the line moving. But the enemy is chaos. A single faulty sensor, a delayed shipment of microchips, an unexpected spike in demand for a specific color of truck. Any one of these can bring the entire multi-billion-dollar operation to a grinding halt. The traditional response is a frantic scramble. Engineers poring over diagnostic codes, logistics managers on the phone begging for expedited shipping, and line workers standing idle, costing the company hundreds of thousands of dollars every single hour. This is the reality of reactive manufacturing. Now, imagine a different kind of manager on that factory floor. One that never sleeps, never blinks, and sees everything. This manager isn't a person. It's an enterprise AI agent, a digital superintendent overseeing the entire operation. Let's focus on one critical stamping press. A machine the size of a small house that forms the body panels of a new vehicle. It's monitored by thousands of sensors measuring pressure, temperature, vibration, and even the acoustic signature of its every movement. To a human, this data is just noise. To the AI agent, it's a language. One Tuesday morning, the agent detects a microscopic change in the vibrational frequency of a primary hydraulic actuator. It's a pattern completely invisible to human senses, but the agent cross-references it with trillions of data points from similar machines across the globe. It recognizes this specific signature. It's the precursor to a catastrophic seal failure. The agent's predictive model calculates a 98.7% probability of failure within the next 110 hours of operation. But here's where the magic happens. The agent doesn't just flash a red warning light on a screen. It acts. First, it checks the production schedule. It sees a planned tool changeover downtime scheduled for Thursday night, 60 hours from now, well within the safe window. It automatically generates a work order for the maintenance department, flagging it as high priority. It doesn't just say fix actuator. It specifies the exact seal part number needed. Simultaneously, it queries the warehouse inventory system. The seal is in stock. The agent reserves the part and adds it to the technician's pick list for their Thursday shift. It then accesses the maintenance team's schedule, identifies the technician certified for this specific repair, and assigns the job to her, automatically populating her calendar. It even preloads the precise technical diagrams and step-by-step repair instructions onto her tablet, ready for her shift. The result? The technician arrives on Thursday, the part is waiting, the instructions are clear. The repair takes 45 minutes during a time the line was already scheduled to be down. The catastrophic failure never happens. The production line never stops. Millions of dollars in potential lost revenue are saved, and the human operator who first noticed a problem was the AI. Now, scale that intelligence from a single machine to the entire global supply chain. This is where AI agents are moving from incremental improvement to fundamental transformation. The supply chain has always been a chain of blind spots. A factory in Ohio has no real-time visibility into the production capacity of its Tier 3 supplier in Taiwan. A shipping company has no idea that a sudden heat wave in Texas is about to cause a spike in demand for air conditioning units, which will delay the unloading of its containers full of car parts at the Port of Houston. AI agents are creating a glass supply chain. They are federated intelligences, a network of agents sharing anonymized, secure data across companies, logistics providers, and even raw materials suppliers. An agent at a major retailer detects a 15% uptick in online orders for electric vehicles in the Pacific Northwest. This isn't a guess. It's a statistical fact. This information is instantly and automatically shared with the automotive manufacturer's agent. That agent doesn't just increase its production forecast. It queries the agents of its key suppliers. It asks the battery supplier's agent, "Can you increase your cell output by 7% in the next quarter?" The battery agent, in turn, checks its own capacity and then queries its lithium and cobalt supplier's agents. Within seconds, a complex multi-company negotiation and capacity planning process that used to take weeks of phone calls and emails is completed. But it gets deeper. The agent sees that a key shipment of semiconductors is routed through a port where dockworkers are threatening to strike. It instantly games out thousands of alternative scenarios. It calculates that rerouting via air freight is too expensive, but it finds a slightly longer sea route through a different port that, when combined with a small, preemptive order from a secondary supplier in Mexico, will ensure the components arrive at the factory with only a 6-hour delay, completely avoiding any disruption to the final assembly line. It's not just managing a chain of events, it's conducting a global orchestra of commerce in real time. This profound shift naturally raises a critical question. What happens to the people? The maintenance technician, the supply chain analyst, the factory floor manager? The narrative of AI as a job killer is simple, but it's wrong. This is a story of augmentation, not replacement. The maintenance technician is no longer a reactive firefighter, rushing to fix what's broken. She is now a proactive surgeon, armed with predictive insights, performing targeted interventions that prevent failure before it ever occurs. Her job becomes less about brute force and more about high-tech skill and foresight. The supply chain analyst is no longer buried in spreadsheets, trying to manually track thousands of shipments. They are now a strategic commander. The AI agent presents them with 3 optimal solutions to the potential port strike, complete with cost-benefit analysis and risk assessments for each. The human analyst makes the final call, using their experience and intuition to weigh factors the AI might not, like the long-term strategic relationship with a particular shipping partner. The AI handles the infinite complexity of the data, freeing up the human to focus on strategy, negotiation, and creative problem-solving. We are not automating humans out of the loop. We are automating the tedious, the impossible, and the soul-crushing parts of their jobs, elevating their roles to be more strategic, more valuable, and frankly, more human. This transformation, from reactive to predictive, from siloed to interconnected, from automated to truly autonomous, is the new industrial revolution. It's happening right now in the factories that build our cars, the warehouses that ship our packages, and the logistical networks that power our economy. The factory of the future is a cognitive entity, an organism that can sense its environment, reason about its goals, and act to optimize its own survival and growth. But this powerful new form of intelligence, this ability to diagnose and heal a complex system, isn't confined to steel and silicon. It's now being pointed at the most complex system of all, the human body. The same principles that prevent a machine from breaking down are now being used to prevent our bodies from getting sick. And this is where the story shifts from the factory floor to the doctor's office. Imagine for a moment that your car's check engine light didn't just come on when something was already broken. Imagine it came on a year before the transmission was about to fail, telling you that a tiny, inexpensive bearing was wearing out and needed to be replaced. You'd fix it, right? You'd spend a few dollars to save thousands. Now, what if that check engine light was for your own body? This is the central promise of predictive healthcare, a revolution being driven by enterprise AI agents. For decades, our medical system has been fundamentally reactive. You feel sick, you go to the doctor, you get a diagnosis, you get treatment. We wait for the breakdown. But AI agents are flipping that entire model on its head. They are becoming our body's early warning system, our biological check engine light. How? By consuming and making sense of data on a scale no human doctor, or even a team of doctors ever could. We're not just talking about your annual blood test results. An AI agent working for a major US healthcare provider today is simultaneously analyzing your entire electronic health record, your family history, genomic data, data from your smartwatch tracking your sleep and heart rate, prescription history, and even anonymized environmental and lifestyle data from your zip code. It's like having a million-person research team dedicated to one patient. These agents operate in a sophisticated, multi-layered system. First, you have the data synthesis agent. Its only job is to constantly churn through these mountains of disparate information, looking for patterns. It's a digital bloodhound. It might notice that your resting heart rate, tracked by your fitness watch, has subtly increased by 3 beats per minute over the last 6 months. On its own, that's nothing. Your doctor would never even see it. But the agent simultaneously sees a slight elevation in a specific inflammatory marker from your last blood test, and a note from 2 years ago that your mother had an autoimmune condition. Individually, these are just tiny disconnected data points lost in a sea of noise. But the agent connects them. It's seen this specific combination of signals, this faint, almost invisible pattern, in thousands of other patients who were later diagnosed with a particular chronic illness. This is where the second agent takes over, the personalized risk modeler. This agent doesn't just say, "You might be at risk." It builds a dynamic, probabilistic model of your future health. It might calculate, for example, a 72% probability that you will develop type 2 diabetes within the next 3 years if your current trajectory continues. It quantifies the future. It turns a vague worry into a specific, actionable forecast. But here's the most critical part, the step that moves this from interesting data analysis to life-changing intervention: the intervention strategy agent. This agent doesn't just deliver bad news. It formulates a plan. Based on your specific genetic makeup, lifestyle, and risk profile, it might generate a hyper-personalized recommendation. Not just eat healthier, but a precise 14-day meal plan that has been shown to be effective for people with your exact biomarkers. Not just exercise more, but a specific regimen of 30 minutes of Zone 2 cardio 4 times a week, a plan designed to have the maximum impact on your insulin sensitivity. It then presents this entire package, the observation, the risk model, and the proposed intervention, to your primary care physician in a simple, easy-to-read dashboard. The doctor is still in complete control. They make the final call, but they are now armed with a level of insight that feels like a superpower. They can now practice medicine not just for the person who is sick today, but for the person who might get sick 3 years from now. Think about the implications for some of America's most devastating diseases. Heart disease, for instance. AI agents are now being used in leading cardiology departments to analyze EKG results. They can detect subtle, almost imperceptible patterns that predict a patient's risk of sudden cardiac arrest in the near future, with an accuracy that far surpasses human cardiologists. This allows doctors to proactively implant a defibrillator, a simple procedure that can literally be the difference between life and death. Or consider sepsis, a life-threatening condition that is notoriously difficult to diagnose in its early stages. In hospitals across the country, AI agents now monitor patient vitals in real time. They track dozens of variables per second: heart rate, respiration, temperature, blood pressure. The moment the agent detects the faint, complex signature of developing sepsis, it triggers an alarm to the ICU team, often hours before a human nurse or doctor would have noticed the signs. Those hours are a lifetime. This isn't just about individual patient outcomes. It's about redesigning the entire economic and logistical engine of the U.S. healthcare system. Hospitals are using AI agents to predict patient readmission rates. When a high-risk patient is discharged, an agent can automatically schedule follow-up telehealth visits, ensure prescriptions are delivered, and even arrange for meal delivery services, all to prevent a costly and dangerous return to the hospital. Insurance companies are deploying these agents to identify at-risk populations and roll out preventative programs because they've done the math. It is exponentially cheaper to pay for a diabetes prevention program than it is to pay for decades of insulin, dialysis, and hospitalizations. Even pharmaceutical companies are being transformed. AI agents are sifting through billions of molecular compounds to predict which ones are most likely to be effective against diseases like Alzheimer's or cancer, dramatically accelerating the drug discovery pipeline. A process that once took a decade and $1 billion can now be started in a matter of weeks. But, and this is a crucial but, this new world of predictive health is not without its perils. The first and most obvious is data privacy. We are talking about the most intimate data imaginable. The security and ethical use of this information is a monumental challenge. Who owns your health forecast? Can an employer or insurer use it against you? These are not abstract questions. They are being debated in boardrooms and congressional committees right now. Then there is the issue of algorithmic bias. If an AI model is trained primarily on data from one demographic, it may be tragically ineffective, or even dangerously wrong when applied to another. An AI that is a genius at predicting heart attacks in middle-aged men might completely miss the different warning signs in women or minority populations, reinforcing and even amplifying existing health disparities. And finally, there is the human element. Is there a danger of creating a cold and personal, care-by-numbers system? Where does the doctor's intuition, their empathy, and the crucial patient-doctor relationship fit in a world of probabilistic predictions? The goal is not to replace doctors but to augment them, to give them tools to see the invisible and act on the future. We are at the very beginning of this transformation, a monumental shift from a system of sick care to one of genuine healthcare, driven by autonomous agents working tirelessly behind the scenes. We've seen how these agents can optimize the physical world, from factory floors to our own biology. But the next frontier is even more abstract and perhaps more controversial. It's the world of ideas, of entertainment, of the stories we tell ourselves. The AI agent isn't just analyzing the script anymore. It's starting to write it. And this is where the conversation shifts from the purely technical to the deeply cultural. For proof, you don't have to look any further than the picket lines that brought Hollywood to a standstill. The 2023 writers and actors strikes weren't just about fair compensation. They were a battle for the soul of storytelling itself, a line in the sand drawn against the perceived encroachment of generative AI. Because before the AI agent was writing the script, it was already the most powerful executive in the room. For years, studios have been quietly deploying sophisticated AI agents as script analysts. Think of it as a super producer that has read every screenplay, analyzed every box office success and failure, and can predict with terrifying accuracy the financial viability of a new project. A company called Synalytic has been doing this for major studios, using AI to run complex simulations. What happens if we cast this actor instead of that one? How will it play in the Midwest versus the coastal markets? The agent doesn't care about art. It cares about data. It's a machine built to minimize risk, to find the formula, to greenlight not the most original story, but the most predictable hit. It was the first step in industrializing creativity. The next step is to move from analysis to active participation. The AI agent is no longer just the executive. It's the co-writer. Imagine a writer's room where one of the team members is an AI. It never gets tired. It has a perfect memory of every plot point and character arc. If you're stuck on a scene, you can ask it to generate 10 different versions of dialogue in the style of Aaron Sorkin. If you need a new plot twist, it can instantly cross-reference your story with a million narrative structures and suggest a dozen options you'd never considered. This is already happening. Tools built on large language models are being marketed as creative partners that can break writer's block, brainstorm ideas, and flesh out entire worlds from a single paragraph. The promise is a massive acceleration of the creative process. But the fear, the one that echoed on those picket lines, is that a tool for augmentation quickly becomes a tool for replacement. If an agent can generate a good enough script for a fraction of the cost of a human writer, how long until good enough becomes the industry standard? This existential threat extends far beyond the writer's room. It's walking onto the set, and it's wearing the face of your favorite actor. The concept of the digital double is no longer science fiction. AI agents can now create photorealistic, fully animated avatars of performers from a handful of scans. This technology was at the heart of the actor's strike. The fear wasn't just about de-aging like we saw with Robert De Niro in The Irishman. It was about digital necromancy and perpetual performance. The fear is that a studio could scan a background actor, pay them for one day's work, and then use their AI-generated likeness in any project, forever, without further compensation. Or even more profoundly, that they could create a new movie starring a digital ghost of Marilyn Monroe or James Dean, her voice and mannerisms perfectly replicated by an AI that has analyzed every frame of her films. Who owns a face? Who owns a voice? These are no longer philosophical questions. They are clauses being negotiated in multi-million-dollar contracts. The AI agent becomes the ultimate puppet master, capable of making actors say and do things they never performed, long after they've left the set, or even long after they've passed away. It's a new form of immortality, but one where you don't control your own legacy. And the agent isn't just recreating actors. It's building the entire world around them. Look at the video game industry, a sector that is often a decade ahead of Hollywood in adopting new tech. Companies like Ubisoft are using AI agents as world builders. Instead of artists manually placing every tree, rock, and building in a massive open-world game, a process that takes years and thousands of people, an AI agent can generate a sprawling, unique, and realistic landscape in a matter of hours. But it's going deeper than just scenery. NVIDIA has demonstrated AI agents powering non-player characters, or NPCs, in games. These aren't the stiff, robotic characters you're used to, who repeat the same 2 lines of dialogue forever. These are dynamic beings. You can walk up to a virtual bartender and have a full, unscripted conversation with them using your own voice. The AI agent, in real time, generates the character's response, their facial expressions, their tone of voice. This transforms a game from a pre-written story into a living simulation. The AI agent is no longer just a character. It's the dungeon master, creating a world that truly reacts to you, crafting a story that is uniquely yours. This creative revolution is also happening in our ears. The music industry is grappling with its own AI ghostwriters. Platforms like AIVA and SoundRaw can now compose complex, emotionally resonant, and completely original musical scores in any genre imaginable. From a sweeping orchestral piece for a movie trailer to a lo-fi hip-hop beat to study to. These AI composers are trained on vast libraries of music, learning the rules of harmony, melody, and rhythm. They can create royalty-free music on demand, a game-changer for content creators, indie filmmakers, and advertisers. But just like in Hollywood, this efficiency comes with a profound artistic question. The controversy exploded into the mainstream with the fake Drake song, where an AI agent cloned the voices of Drake and The Weeknd and generated a completely new track that was so convincing, it went viral and was even submitted for Grammy consideration. It raised a firestorm of legal and ethical debates. If an artist's voice, their unique biological instrument, can be perfectly replicated by a machine, what is left that is truly theirs? Does a song generated by an algorithm that has studied 1 million love songs actually understand love? Or is it just a clever imitation? An echo in a data-filled canyon? This is the fundamental conflict at the heart of this entire transformation. Enterprise AI agents are introducing industrial-scale efficiency into one of the last bastions of bespoke, human creation. They offer a tantalizing promise: the democratization of creativity, where anyone can direct a movie, compose a symphony, or design a video game. They offer speed, cost savings, and data-driven predictability to industries that have always been at the mercy of mercurial human talent and unpredictable audience tastes. But the cost of this efficiency might be the very thing that makes art matter: its soul. Art is born from experience, from pain, from joy, from the messy, inefficient, and unpredictable process of being human. A machine can replicate the style, but can it ever originate the substance? As these agents become more and more integrated into the creative pipeline, there is a real danger of creating an algorithmic echo chamber. A world where our movies, our music, and our stories are all generated from the same data pool, optimized by the same algorithms, and designed to appeal to the same predictable emotional triggers. It's a future of perfect, polished, and utterly soulless content. These AI agents are mastering the art of mimicking human creativity. They are becoming the ultimate storytellers, producers, and performers, all rolled into one. But in this new world, where the line between human and machine-generated art is completely erased, who is the audience? And more importantly, what story are these AI agents ultimately telling us about ourselves? The answer to that question will define not just our industries but our very culture, and it's what we're going to confront next. The story these AI agents are telling us is, at its core, a story about data. And that data is the most unfiltered, brutally honest reflection of our collective behavior, our priorities, our biases, and our ambitions ever assembled. Every transaction, every customer service query, every supply chain log, every line of code written. It's the digital exhaust of our entire economy. When we build an AI agent and feed it this data, we are not creating an alien intelligence. We are holding up a mirror. And for the first time, that mirror has the cognitive power to not only reflect our image but to analyze it, predict its next move, and act upon it. What we're discovering is that the story of enterprise AI isn't a story of replacement, but one of symbiosis. It's a fundamental redefinition of the partnership between human intellect and machine calculation. Think of the most complex jobs today: a surgeon in an operating room, an airline pilot navigating a storm, a financial analyst trying to predict a market crash. These professionals are already augmented by technology. They operate in a cockpit of data, using tools to see more, understand more, and act with greater precision. Enterprise AI agents are the next evolution of this cockpit. They are not flying the plane alone. They are the ultimate co-pilot, capable of monitoring 1,000 systems at once, anticipating turbulence before it hits, and suggesting flight paths the human pilot might never have conceived. The human's role doesn't vanish, it becomes more critical. It elevates. The AI can process 1 million patient records to find correlations in symptoms, but it's the human doctor who must sit with the patient, understand their fear, and use empathy and intuition to choose the right course of treatment. The AI agent can analyze every logistics variable to design the most efficient shipping route, but it's the human manager who must navigate the unpredictable politics of a port strike or build a relationship with a new supplier. The machine handles the complexity of the known, freeing up the human to master the ambiguity of the unknown. This is what experts are starting to call the last-mile problem of cognition. An AI can write a brilliant legal brief 99% of the way there. But that last 1%, understanding the judge's temperament, reading the jury's body language, crafting a narrative that connects on a deeply human level, that remains our domain. And in the age of AI, that last 1%, that final mile of human-centric work, becomes infinitely more valuable. The new currency of the American economy won't be the ability to perform a repetitive task, but the ability to do what the machine cannot. To innovate, to empathize, to lead, and to dream. So what does this mean for the workforce? It means the most important skill we can teach is not how to code an AI, but how to question it. The most sought-after professionals will be the AI orchestrators and AI whisperers. These are the people who can artfully and strategically prompt these systems, who can frame a business problem in a way that the AI can solve, who can look at the output and critically assess its validity, its biases, and its blind spots. The new literacy is learning how to have a productive conversation with a non-human intelligence. It's about curiosity, critical thinking, and a deep understanding of your specific field. Your domain expertise is what allows you to ask the right questions and to know when the AI's answer, while statistically probable, is practically nonsense. This transition, however, forces us to walk an ethical tightrope. The same mirror that shows us our efficiencies also reflects our flaws with terrifying clarity. If our historical data is biased, the AI agent we train on it will not just replicate that bias. It will amplify it, codifying past injustices into future automated decisions. An AI trained on decades of bias-lending data could create a loan approval agent that is ruthlessly, mathematically discriminatory, all while appearing perfectly objective. This creates an urgent societal imperative to not just build powerful AI, but to build transparent, fair, and accountable AI. We need to solve the black box problem. When an autonomous fleet management agent reroutes 1,000 trucks and it leads to $1 billion loss, who is responsible? The company that owns the agent? The developers who coded it? The company that supplied the data? Without clear lines of accountability, we risk creating systems of immense power with no one at the helm. Building the ethical scaffolding around these agents is not a secondary concern. It is the central challenge of our time. It is the work that will determine whether this technology empowers us or endangers us. And this is where the story of enterprise AI becomes the story of America's future on the global stage. For decades, our competitive advantage has been rooted in innovation, in the spirit of Silicon Valley, in our ability to invent the next big thing. But the AI race is different. While building massive foundational models is important, the true, lasting advantage will come from implementation. It will be won in the trenches of our industries, in the factories, hospitals, and offices across the country. The nation that masters the art of human-agent collaboration, the nation that successfully retrains its workforce to become AI orchestrators, the nation that builds the strongest ethical and legal frameworks to govern this technology, that is the nation that will lead the 21st century. This is not a spectator sport. The deployment of these agents is actively reshaping the strategic landscape. A company that uses an AI agent to design a more efficient microchip will outcompete its rivals. A healthcare system that uses agents to predict disease outbreaks will save more lives. A military that uses them to analyze intelligence and run logistics will have an insurmountable strategic advantage. This transformation is happening right now, and it is every bit as profound as the Industrial Revolution or the dawn of the Internet. So when we ask what story these AI agents are telling us about ourselves, the answer is this. They are telling us that our future is not predetermined. They are showing us that our greatest challenges, from curing diseases to solving climate change to creating new frontiers of economic growth, are fundamentally problems of complexity. And for the first time in human history, we are building the tools to finally manage that complexity. These agents are not a conclusion, they are a beginning. They are a catalyst forcing us to confront the most fundamental questions about what we value, what kind of work is meaningful, and what kind of society we want to build. The technology itself has no agenda. It is an engine of immense power, waiting for a destination. It can be used to build a future of unprecedented prosperity and creativity, or it can be used to entrench inequality and automate apathy. The choice is ours. The story is not yet written. We are the ones holding the pen. The question is no longer if these intelligent agents will transform our world. The only question that matters now is, what will we command them to create?